All right, let's talk about something every PC builder and upgrader obsesses over: timing. Trying to catch that perfect moment when prices drop. Well, today we're diving into one of the biggest market shifts we've seen in a long time, and it's all about computer memory. It's the question, right? The one we all ask ourselves. You've got the parts picked out, you're ready to go, but there's that little voice in your head saying, what if I wait just a little longer? Maybe I'll get a better deal. It's a tough call. Well, listen up, because for one absolutely critical part of your build, the waiting is officially over. Seriously, the data is in, the trend is clear, and the opportunity is just wow. Let's get into what's been happening.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the big picture of these price shifts. Then I'll quickly show you how to read the data so it all makes sense. After that, we'll get into the tale of two technologies: the trusty veteran, DDR4, and the new kid on the block, DDR5. And most importantly, we'll wrap up with what all this means for you and your next build.
All right, let's dive right in. The last year and a half in the computer memory market has been, to put it mildly, a roller coaster. And understanding that ride is the key to making a really smart move right now. And look, I'm not being dramatic here. This isn't just some minor sale. We're talking about a fundamental change. It's kind of like a perfect storm of manufacturing getting more efficient, demand changing, and that created a huge oversupply. All of that together has made high-capacity, high-speed RAM more affordable than pretty much ever. The whole value game has been flipped on its head. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of DDR4 versus DDR5, we need to make sure we're all on the same page. Knowing how to look at these price graphs is going to make the whole story click. So, super quick primer on what you're about to see. When we look at these price graphs, that thick black line, that's your average price over time. The big gray band around it, that shows you the full spread, from the absolute cheapest to the most expensive. And those little light blue dots tell you where most of the prices are clustered together. Got it? Cool. Let's see what the data shows us.
First up, let's talk about the old reliable, the workhorse, DDR4 memory. For years, this stuff has been the absolute foundation of PC building. It just works, it's compatible with tons of systems, and it gives you great performance.
You know the kids I'm talking about, those super popular 16 or 32 gig sets of DDR4 3200 or 3600. When you look at its price history over the last 18 months, the story is all about one thing: consistency. The prices took a nosedive, and then they just stayed there, flatlining at this incredible low. It's become an absolutely amazing bargain.
So, the bottom line on DDR4 is this: it's hit rock bottom in the best way possible. There's no drama, no big price swings. If you're building on a platform that uses it, you can now grab a massive 32GB kit for what a 16GB kit used to cost. It is, without a doubt, the king when it comes to value.
But that's only half the story, isn't it? Because while DDR4 was becoming this super stable value option, its successor, DDR5, was on a completely wild and different journey. It started out as the new, flashy, and frankly, very expensive option. Oh man, I remember when the first DDR5 kits hit the shelves. You know, the 4800, 5200, up to 60,000 megahertz speeds. The prices were just eye-watering. You were paying a huge early adopter tax just to have the latest tech. But wow, has that changed? The last 18 months have totally rewritten that story. This timeline says it all. You look back 18 months ago, and DDR5 was a niche product for people with very deep pockets. Then, around a year ago, we hit the great drop. Manufacturing got better, more people started buying it, and prices just started falling. And they kept falling. And that brings us to today, where the price gap between DDR4 and DDR5 has shrunk so much that DDR5 is now a totally mainstream, affordable option. And this really sums it all up, right? This is the choice you have today. On one side, you've got DDR4, the value king. It's mature, it's stable, and it's how you squeeze every last drop of performance out of your budget. On the other side, you've got DDR5, where the future is here. It used to be crazy expensive, but prices have crashed, making the latest tech and fastest speeds surprisingly easy to get. Okay, so we've looked at the charts, we've heard the stories, but what does this all actually mean for you and the parts you're about to buy? Let's turn all this data into some real-world advice. Let's break it down. If you are building on a tight budget where every dollar counts, just stick with DDR4. You simply cannot beat the value. But if you're building a new performance PC, DDR5 is now the clear choice. It's not a luxury anymore. The small extra cost gets you way more future-proofing. For you upgraders out there with a DDR4 system, there has never, ever been a better time to jump from 16 gigs to 32. And for most new builds, that 32 gig kit of DDR5 6000, that's the new sweet spot for sure.
When you boil it all down, the story of the last 18 months is this. High-performance memory is not just for the high-end builds anymore. The gap has closed. The barrier to entry has been smashed. It's more accessible than it's ever been.
So, that really just leaves one last pretty exciting question. Knowing that you can get so much more speed and so much more capacity for your money, what are you going to build? Thanks for joining me.